Sukkah Perek Vav Yud Beis. Kol Zman She'yikonis Leisha B'Sukkah Kol Shiva. Every time he goes into the Sukkah, all 7 days, he has to make a bracha. Let's see what it says here. Mevorach Kodim She'yeshev. He should make a bracha before he sits down. Asher Gitshonim V'Tzoisav. He was sanctified us with his commandments. V'Tzivonu, and he commanded us Leisha B'Sukkah, to sit in the Sukkah. Now the bracha is talking about sitting, and it's you make the bracha before you do so, before you actually fulfill the mitzvah, as we find in Psochim and also in brachas and on Leil Yom Tov Rishon, and the night of the first Yom Tov, he makes Kiddush Mevorach al Sukkah. First he says the bracha about the Sukkah. We should sit in the Sukkah. V'arkach al Zman. After he says Shechionu, and thus we see Nimtza Mekadesh Me'umed. He makes Kiddush standing, and he makes the bracha of Leisha B'Sukkah before he sits down, the Yoshev, and then he sits down, and then he makes the bracha on the Shechionu. And so was the meaning of our rabbis and the rabbis of the Svard to make Kiddush standing in the first night of Sukkot, as we explained. The Maggid Mishnah cites Sukkah 46 and the Rif. It brings the Goinim that even if he goes in 100 times a day, he makes a bracha. That's the opinion of the Rambam, and he cites, and I saw written that only when he goes out to do other things, and he won't return immediately. He goes back, he makes a bracha again, because that's definitely a break. But if he went out to speak to his friend, or to bring something for the sukkah, it's not called going out that he needs a new bracha. That's correct. Still, the minute custom is that you don't make a bracha only on meals. And that's like Rabbeinu Yaakov's out, Rabbeinu Tam, that if he went out and he went back to a meal, he shouldn't make a bracha. And so we find that Goyes Maimonides from the Bahag and the Sefer Yereim. If you went, you should make a bracha even 10 times in a day, and the proof is from Tefillin. The Rabbanan Be'Rabashi, every time that they would put on their tefillin, they were going to make a bracha, as we find in Rabbeinu Menoach. Let us see. Rabbeinu Menoach says in Sukkah, tefillin as long as they're on his head, he makes a bracha on them. This is the Rebbe. That's Halacha by Tzitzis and Sukkah. If he went out to bring bread or wine or anything else, or he's learning the Sukkah, he went to get another sefer, he doesn't make another bracha. Like in brachas, if you make a moitzi and you say, take him and make a bracha, it's not called a hefsek, and you don't make a new bracha because you said take. Here too, since he was yoytze, the tzerach kiyum mitzvosov, you ought to keep the mitzvah. It's not a break. He questions. So he took over his tefillin to go to get to the restroom. He's going to put him back on. When he comes out, he says he should make a bracha, and he answers, here's different. That he didn't do it for their purposes, but for the purpose of his physical body to relieve himself. He took it off, therefore, because he cannot wear them in the bathroom, and therefore on Sukkah, so he goes out not for the purpose of the Sukkah, he has to make a bracha when he returns. Not like the Maggid Mishnah says that you only make a bracha if it's a definitive separation. He won't return right away. But if he wants to come back right away, he doesn't make a new bracha. Agoras Maimonides also brings from Rabbeinu Tam that Leisha B'Sukkah in a Suda fulfills our obligations as a whole of learning and doing other things and sleeping. Rabbeinu Simcha and the Rekeach and the Rae Gann, that they also bring that somebody comes to sleep without thinking of eating, makes a bracha on sleeping. And you shouldn't say he commanded us to sleep, but rather leisha, meaning to dwell. Shulchan Aruch in 639 says the meaning is you don't make a bracha on the sukkah only when you eat it, only when you eat. The Rambam adds, and that's the meaning. The Mishnah Berurah cites the Rambam that according to the Gemara, when he made a bracha and he went out for his own purposes and not to go right back, he has taken his thoughts away from the sukkah. When he goes back, he has to make a bracha, even 100 times. When he goes in, that even standing and sitting in the sukkah is a mitzvah, because that's the way you live in your home. You stand, sit, go. Still, the custom of the world is only like a tam. You make the bracha only when you eat. And even if you're sitting an hour before, you don't make a bracha. And the bracha on food, on eating, also fulfills the obligation that everything that is before it and after it is because of your purpose of eating. The Mishabura also brings to the Machon Nesher the Chai Odom and the Bikur Yaakov, that it's correct to also fulfill the thought of the Rambam, and you shouldn't sit without making a bracha. Therefore, when he comes home from shul after Shacharis, he should simply make a bracha on something like cake from the 5 different species of grain. He should eat a little bit more than a kizbeya, because that was you're obligated to eat in the sukkah. You should make a bracha leishiv sukkah, and then he shouldn't make a bracha later when he eats the suda. And he adds, he made a bracha another time when he ate it and he didn't go out, or he went out and he wanted to come back. He doesn't have to make a second bracha, even if he comes to eat a suda. Therefore, some of you are sitting all the day in the sukkah, you're sleeping in the sukkah, he davens there and he doesn't leave. He makes a bracha at the first time that he eats there. Those are saying that since he went out in the interim, even to come back, he has to make a bracha when he eats again. If he went out for his own purposes and he isn't going to return right away, that for sure is a separation, and he has to make a bracha when he comes to eat again. It seems that eating is the main time you make the bracha. Now, somebody who's fasting or he's not thinking of eating bread and the meal in the sukkah that day. The Mishnah Berurah decides the issue that even according to Rabbi Tam, who says after each time that he goes out he has to make a bracha, that's only when he's going to eat bread that he makes a bracha on the meal, and that fulfills the other obligations. He brings from the Chai Odom, if he ate and he went out now without intent to come back at that moment, the choza, then he comes back and he knows that he will not eat till nightfall, and before eating he went out to daven, he has to make a bracha now. He says to the Machon Nesher, if somebody goes in the middle of the meal to his friend's sukkah, even if at the beginning he wanted to go there in the middle and to come right back, he has to make a bracha in the friend's sukkah, because it would be a separation, a gap. Therefore, if he wants to eat something that's forbidden to eat outside the sukkah, he has to make a bracha. But many commentaries have the opinion that going to different sukkah is not considered a break, and if he was thinking to go back to his sukkah, he doesn't have to make a bracha, even when he eats in his friend's sukkah. And the Bush Yitzron decides the issue that we don't make a bracha if you go to your friend's sukkah to eat there. Say if there's a Shalom Zochor, you're going to a Rebbe's tish, you don't make a bracha there again. You can bench there as well. You don't have to go home to bench. Sha'at Tzion cites that this is also the opinion of the Shulchan Aruch Rav, but the Chai Odom says you have to make a bracha even if you won't eat there. And he explains in the minig that the custom is like Rabbi Tam to make a bracha at the time of the meal is only his own sukkah, because that's where he makes his meal. But in his friend's sukkah, here there's no meal. Even Rabbi Tam would require you to make a bracha when you go in. You want to sit down. If he goes in for a moment to collect something, then you don't have to make a bracha. If you forgot to make a bracha leishiv sukkah and he's out to eat, you should make the bracha afterwards, when he's going to continue to eat. And even if you made birchas hamazon, you can make a bracha on the time that he's there, because while he's sitting, it's called one sitting, even though he's no longer eating. And if he finished his meal and he didn't say birchas hamazon, you should make a bracha leishiv sukkah. You should eat a little bit, because you should make a bracha on food. Rae Gann Masik, he disagrees on what the Rambam says. You make a bracha before you sit down, and you make kiddush standing. You make a bracha leisha basukah, then sit down. So the Rae Gann says he wasn't exact. The custom of our places was never such, and the reason is because that the sitting is only to eat, and as long as he doesn't eat, so the bracha is before it, and it's considered be'emes before it. And what he means, you make kiddush standing up because you have to make yeshiva when he sits down. If you make a bracha, if you make kiddush sitting down, you shouldn't say leisha basukah because he is already sitting. Rae Gann argues that since that he sat down only to eat, still he hasn't eaten, it's not called that he's sitting in the sukkah. And therefore, he may sit down. Now, your Mishnah says that you make a bracha al sukkah, and afterwards you make a bracha on zman. Besides Sukkah 56a and Lulav Arova 46a. Afghana Mizadala Kasa. You make all the brachas when they made Kiddush. The Magen Mishnah explains in Kaddish Umid that the rule is every mitzvah you stand that you make a bracha before you do it, and you should make a bracha before you sit down because the sitting is the mitzvah. It means that the Rae Gann disagrees and he pushes it off. According to him, if somebody wants to sit down in the sukkah not to eat, he should make the bracha standing, not sitting. And he answers that the bracha of leisha basukah doesn't mean actually sitting, because if he stood there all day and he ate and he drank, he would fulfill his obligations. Leisha means to dwell there. It says you shall dwell in the sukkahs. When he went in, he began the mitzvah. Therefore, it's not specifically before you sit down. It's called before every moment that comes after it. And the whole day you can perform the mitzvah. According to the Rambam and his Rebbe's, his teachers, you should make the bracha before you walked in. And the Magen Mishnah says that he writes all this because this is the minig of the Rambam, and this is our custom as well. The Lechem Mishnah infers that the minig of the Rae Gann is different, and the Magen Mishnah seems to have made Kiddush standing, like the Rambam. He questions that would seem to contradict our minig that says that somebody who sits down is also considered before he has fulfilled his obligation, as long as he's in the sukkah, that he can make a bracha. And if the minig was like the Rae Gann, it's obvious that he's explaining only the explanation of the Rae Gann. However, Maimonides cites the Rabbeinu Simcha says that a person, as long as a person is involved in a mitzvah, he can make a bracha even though he started it before, because it's considered prior to the completion of the mitzvah. The Torah explains how you do Kiddush and Be'ez Hayayin. You say Asher Boch Rabonu, you say Leisha Basukah Shechionu, like the Rambam. All of it is before Shechionu. And he says, according to the bracha of Shechionu, on the day of Yom Tov and also on the mitzvah of Sukkah, it's for both. And he cites in the Rambam, he make Kiddush standing in order to do it in the place of the mitzvah where you're going to sit in the Sukkah. But Yosef explains, according to the Rambam, sitting means literally on a chair. Therefore, you should make the Kiddush standing before you sit down. So the first night you say Leisha Basukah, only the Kiddush, and you should do it standing to make the bracha before he sits down. You don't make it by the Suda necessarily, you make it by the Kiddush before he does it. The Torah brings from the Rosh. The questions, according to the Rambam, should have to make Kiddush before he goes in. He should make it so, because when he goes in, he's already fulfilling the mitzvah. Like the Magen Mishnah, he explains that since the mitzvah is also the eating and going around, even after he sat down, it's called also prior to the mitzvah. The mitzvah is all day. He explains that since the mitzvah is even the eating, even after he sit down, is called before he does it, as long as he's staying in the sukkah, like the words of the Magen Mishnah. I mean, he explains again, Sukkah's Teishu means to dwell or remain, as we find Vayeshiv ha'om Kodesh, and the people remained in Kodesh, that they remained there, they continued there. And he said in the Bracha Leishev, on the staying in the dwelling. Torah also brings down from Rav Tzemach Goin that if you don't have to make a bracha when you go in right away, but still, since there's a time for the meal, this Kiddush, Yom and the Suda, and the first night, you should do it all by Kiddush. It brings to Maram Rothenburg, he said, Leisha Vasuka before the Moitzi, even in the weekdays. Like the Brisa, nearless, you should sit in here and make a bracha. And he brings to the Rosh that that's not the custom of the world. First they make the brocha, and they don't make it on anything but the meal, and not on dwelling or sleeping. Therefore, you should say the moitzi before Leisha Basukah, because that's what's causing the brocha to be said. Hagi Moshe cites that's the minig in the weekdays. But the Shabbos and Yom Tov, when you make Kiddush, you say Leisha Basukah, and then you take the cup and while you wash your hands, you make the moitzi. Shulchan Aruch precedes this by saying the order of Kiddush, V'yayin, Kiddush and Sukkah, and then Arakach Zman. Say that Kiddush. First, the order of Kiddush is first wine of Kiddush, then Sukkah, then Zman. Because Zman goes on the Kiyum, Kiddush HaYom, and also in the Sukkah. And according to the Rambam, you would make Kiddush standing, you make a bracha Leisha Basukah, and after you sit down. On most sides, that's not the minig, you make Kiddush sitting. That's what the Rosh says. That's according to those who make Kiddush sitting down. But those who make Kiddush standing, first night of the Kiddush Sukkah, they should make the Kiddush standing. Mechaba adds, on the other days you make the Sukkah on the Sukkah before Moitzi. The minig is to make the bracha on the Sukkah after the Moitzi before you taste. The Rambam says that this is the way we do it in the weekdays, but Shabbos and Yom Tov, when you have Kiddush, you should do it after the Kiddush. The Mishnah Berurah explains that that's considered the beginning of the meal, and you can make a bracha of Leishev Basukah. Shabbos and Yom Tov. Regarding Shabbos and Yom Tov and Shachas, when the Kiddush is only very often, the Divrei Shmuel says it's not. You shouldn't say Leisha Sukkah between the bracha to the drinking, because on the shtir there's no chiyuv sukkah. You should make it after Birchas HaMoitzi, according to the minig that you're making the bracha in the weekday Leisha Sukkah after the Moitzi. The Peirush HaMeir say that since it's preparing himself for Kiddush for to eat, he can make it before he tastes from the kois. The Mishnah Berurah concludes whoever does this custom is okay, and the one who does the other custom is also equally correct, because there are those in Kiddush of Shachos, so you say Leisha Basukah right after Priya Gofen, and those who don't, they sit down, because it could be you can drink outside the sukkah, although wine, many people don't drink outside the sukkah. That's according to those who say Kiddush, that right after Kiddush they want to wash their hands. But if they make Kiddush and they eat only Zoinas, since he's eating in order for the Kiddush should be Mokum Suda, Shavua says, Shai Tshuva says you should make Leisha Sukkah before you taste in the cup. Even the Mishnah Berurah agrees with that. In the Sukkah, in Mem Vav Ben Aleph, it says, somebody who makes a sukkah for himself, he makes a brocha shechionu. That would mean he should make a brocha at the time he should make a shechionu at the time he's making the brocha. Rashi say shechionu b'kiddush. Therefore, we also do so. The shechionu also is used on the idea of the sanctity of the festival and on sitting on the sukkah. Now, somebody says shechionu when he makes the sukkah should not make a bracha on Leil Yom Tov Rishon, even though he's eating in the sukkah. If he did not make a bracha when he made it and rain came down the first night, and he can't eat the first night, he should make a shechiyonu in his house on Yontif. And in the morning when he eats in the Sukkah, he makes another shechiyonu on the mitzvah of Sukkah. And so too, as long as he didn't make shechiyonu, for whatever reason, when he comes to eat in the Sukkah, even on the second or third days, he makes a shechiyonu. That's what the Rae says. When Bnei Chutz La'aretz eat 2 days of Yontif, and the second day of Sukkot, they make Kiddush, they say shechiyonu like any Yontif, and Pesach also. And Manoach says the shechiyonu on the first night is when you make the Sukkah, and he has to have intent for it, and he doesn't have to make a brocha on the Kiddush on the second night. And he answers, when it says shechiyonu, when he makes it, he knows that this is the beginning of the mitzvah, and there's no mistake. Therefore, it's enough without brocha. But when he makes the first night, he thinks that the time of Sukkot came. He's differentiating between, if you made a brocha before Sukkot, then you don't have to make a brocha of shechiyonu on the second night. But if you do it as we do, because at night of when you're going into the Sukkah, so you do it on both days, because he's doing it for the time of Sukkah, and since both days are suffix, therefore you would make it on the second day as well. The Rambam explains a mitzvah that comes from time to time in the year. You have to make the bracha at the time of doing it shechiyonu. If he didn't make the bracha on the Sukkah and the Lulav shechiyonu when he made it, he has to make it when he fulfills his obligation. Like Maimonides, it points out that therefore they make the bracha on Yontif or on shechiyonu on the Lulav only once, even those who live in Chutz La'aretz, because he could have made the bracha when he made it. Certainly that if he made it beyond the Rishon, he fulfilled his obligation. And Bnei Chutz La'aretz make a bracha shechiyonu on the second night of Sukkot, as like other festivals, that you make it because of the suffix of the day, and not nothing to do with the Sukkah. With the shechiyonu on making the Sukkah, he fulfilled his obligation the first night. And even if it was a weekday, it's no worse than making a bracha at the time of making the Sukkah. Not like Rabbeinu Manoach. Hilchos Maimonides explains that B'Megensa and Tzorfat, they make shechiyonu on the Lulav even on the second day. That every bracha that applies to the first day applies to the second day, so that you shouldn't say Yontif Sheni is equivalent to Yontif Rishon. He cites in Shabbos 23a, and Rabbeinu Peretz, Rabbi Leo, so in the name of the Rabbi, Rabbi Shmuel Me'ivia, the name of the Rebbe Toisus, and maybe the first day is weekday, and therefore when he took the Lulav, it wasn't actually doing it, and therefore on the second day, he has to make the bracha again, like Rabbeinu Manoach says. And it's definitely clear that you have to make a shechiyonu on the second night on the Kiddush. The only question is if you make a shechiyonu on the mitzvah of Sukkah as well. Is that your intent? According to Hilchos Maimonides, you don't have to make a bracha shechiyonu because you did it already the first night, or it's no worse than doing it before Sukkah when you made it. According to Manoach and the Rae, you would make a bracha on the Sukkah as well. Rambam says that the first night you make a bracha on the Sukkah, and after that it's a shechiyonu, because shechiyonu also includes the Sukkah and the sanctity of the Yontif. And the Yontif Sheni, it will say that you fulfilled the obligation of shechiyonu the first night on the Sukkah, and in the second night the shechiyonu is only for the Yontif. And he'd have to say it before Leisha Basukkah. That's why he would change the order. But if he say that the bracha of shechiyonu is on the Sukkah also, you make the bracha like the first night Leisha Basukkah and afterwards shechiyonu. Shulchan Aruch says that the halacha is the second night is his kiddush, and then shechiyonu, and then the bracha of Sukkah. The Rambam says this is according to the Rosh. That's the way the custom should be. The Mishnah Berurah explains shechiyonu on the second night is only on the festival, not on Sukkah. That even if the first day would be weekday, he can do the shechiyonu on the Sukkah. and the first night is no worse than if he had made the shiur when he built and put together the sukkah. Like that goes Maimonides in the name of Rae Toisus. And therefore you shouldn't stop between Kiddush to shiur, but we should make right away shiur, and afterwards you should say Leisha Sukkah. He brings from the Ridvaz and Marshal, like the Avi Ezri, that in the second night you make Leisha Sukkah and then shiur. Leisha Sukkah is before shiur, is not considered a break between the brocha of drinking and the drinking, because if Yontiv would fall on Motzei Shabbos, we also even add Havdalah before we drink from the kois. We have wine, the Kiddush, then we make a Peirush and we say the Shema Hamavdil, Ativ Daldo, and you say Zman, and even though shiur does not go on Havdalah, only on Kiddush, he says that before shiur he doesn't stop. Thus we see that those in the second night make a brocha Leisha Sukkah before shiur is not because they didn't say shiur on the Sukkah, but rather if they fulfill their obligation, the brocha of Leisha Sukkah is not called a hefsek. So the Mishnah Berurah points out that if somebody wants to make a brocha on Leil Beis shiur before Leisha Sukkah, you do not tell him, stop him. Somebody wants to be knowing like the Marshal and Vaz, that on Leil Beis they make the Leisha Sukkah before shiur, they may do so. Hagos Maimonides cites Rabbeinu Yaakov of Shimon, that on the first night he would make Leisha Sukkah before shiur, and the second night he would reverse it, shiur and then Leisha Sukkah. As we explained, that shiur the first night is for the Sukkah and also the Kiddush. On the second night it's only on the Kiddush, therefore you should say shiur before Leisha Sukkah. The Avi Ezri though says you make on both nights Leisha Sukkah before shiur, and you do Yain Kiddush Nei Havdalah and then shiur, which proves that shiur, even though it doesn't come for the Havdalah, you say it last. It's not a hefsek. And that would seem to be the opinion that we don't find anyone this differentiates between the first 2 days of Sukkot, even in Golos. And there's a difference regarding the Halacha. If you say the shiur after Leisha Sukkah, because it's not a break, but you fulfill your obligation of shiur on the Sukkah only on the first day, or you do not fulfill it, like Rabbeinu Benoyach. Like the Hilchos Sukkah says, that if you make a brocha on the first day shiur on the Hilchos Lulav, you have to do it again in the second day, because if the first day would be weekday, then the brocha was not when you were doing the mitzvah. But according to the Mechaber, who says like the Rosh, that it's not a hefsek and you're fulfilling the mitzvah of shiur, we made a brocha on the first night because you had intent also on the Lulav. And when you mevorach on the second night shiur is only on mitzvah sukkah, only on the yontiv itself. If we're taking the Lulav, shiur is only on the mitzvah Lulav, and since you already did it, then you do not make a brocha again. And when you make a brocha on Leil Beis, shiur is only on the mitzvah sukkah on the yontiv itself. Taking the Lulav is only on mitzvah Lulav. Since he was yoytz in the shiur, and he doesn't make a brocha on the second day. The Shulchan Aruch codifies the Halacha in 662. You don't make a brocha on shiur on the second day on the Lulav, only if it fell, the first day fell on Shabbos, so you didn't make a shiur on the Lulav, because you didn't take it. The Mishnah Berurah explains that you fulfill the shiur what you say on the first day, because even if the first day would be weekday, there's no worse than the shiur when you put it together, and you can do that before the Sukkot. It's not like Kiddush on the night of Sukkot. Shiur, that shiur is on the sanctification of the day, and not on the Sukkah or the Lulav. And even though the Mechaber and the Ramah disagree, you made a brocha shiur on Kiyas Shreif on the first day. If you make a brocha again on the second day, according to the Mechaber, only if the first day is on Shabbos, you say shiur on Shreif on the second day. And he said shiur on the first day, you don't say on the second days, and that's the minig of Bnei Sfard. The Ramah says that shiur even in the first day when it's chol, and so anoyeg b'nei Ashkenaz, that you do it on the second day even as the first day you already made a shechiyonu, that's the minig of Bnei Ashkenaz. But only by Rosh Hashanah, that there are times the main Kiddush is in the second day, as we find in the Mishnah Brura there, and by Lulav, certainly you fulfill your obligation on the first day, and therefore the second day you do not make a shechiyonu on the Lulav.